And hello and good morning. We are back live. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv. BOLES.tv. Still have the echo in my headphones. Don't know why. Testing it out, everything's fine. But on the headphones, start the stream, echo. I have to figure it out. I just don't know if it's an Elgato problem, sound problem, or if it's a Streamlabs problem, or if it's an NVIDIA broadcast problem, or if it's a Windows 11 problem. And I know if I started investigating it, everybody will blame each other else because that's how people do tech support. Well, it's not happening on my machine. Your machine, well. So yesterday I had a couple of things to do in the morning and got them done. Came back, did a little bit of exercising. I have this 50-pound bag of sand. It's like in a duffel bag that I have showed you here on the live stream before. And I have now been reminded this morning, as my lower back has a slight bit of pain, that you just can't pick up a 50-pound bag and put it over your shoulder and do some dips, and then put it down and pick it up on your over the shoulder and do some dips. Under like a time constraint, like you're trying to hurry before you have to do your next thing. Because when you do that, you get out of position, you get out of form, you're worried about getting up and getting it done rather than doing it right. Hey, it's Commissioner Gordon checking in, saying it's 2022 and just about nobody can explain why turn it off and turn it back on again works so often for fixing computer problems. Very true. It's a very sad, strange thing. And I'm subscribed to a lot of different technical forums. And people really do try to help. And people come in there and say, my webcam stopped working. And they run them through 50 different things and nothing fixes it. And then one guy says in the back, did you unplug it and plug it back in? And then do a hard restart from power down? Hey, that worked. It's weird. I tried it 10 times, but that worked. It doesn't make any sense. But as I said, when I was doing technical support for the computer forum, the Toshiba forum on CompuServe, which is like 1,000 years ago. Is CompuServe even a thing anymore? I don't think so. I ran the modems and communication section, which was very difficult to be a part of because that was really the rise of the internet, 95, 96. Windows 95 was the big communications module that was more like an open internet rather than a closed system like CompuServe, where you'd call into a phone number, a node, and you would be connected to the CompuServe network. It was a closed network, not on the internet. And metered, meaning if you were there for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you had to pay for it. I remember my old K-Pro 2X at home in Lincoln, Nebraska, logging on to CompuServe from the basement. And it was all text, ASCII, as they say. And it was thrilling and very, very expensive. And the first thing I'd have all my modem people do when they came and said, my modem doesn't work, I can't connect to CompuServe, was AT and F1. And I've written articles on that. I've done podcasts on it, AT and F1. Attention A, F and 1. ATF1, which would reset the modem. And I would say add that string because you had to initialize your modem. And a lot of things would try to initialize your modem, your software, your computer. It would always get messed up. So I said, no matter what you do, just go into the modem settings of the modem. So before anybody can touch your computer, your modem in your computer, use AT and F1 as the default string. And that puts it back to a factory reset. And then every time you use your modem, you have a factory reset. And then each communication thing, your internet, your CompuServe node, if they mess with you, they mess with you because they need something in their settings to make it work. So if your modem is AT&F1, which is factory default, and then they put in their modem strings to connect you, it works. And 95% of the time, that's what it was. 2% of the time is because we were working with PMCIA cards. They didn't have the card all the way in the modem card, so you had to push it till it clicked, as they said. And the other 2-3% was just random weird stuff that nobody could ever figure out, and people would go away angry. But if we had problems, we'd say, look, I don't know what to do, so now I'm moving you up the chain to management, the paid Toshiba people. And they were very good. They would always figure out how to fix it, and if they couldn't fix it, that they'd send up a return. It was really a magical, interesting time. And we were all volunteers, not getting paid anything. We got a free CompuServe account, which was, I guess, worth something, where you could be on CompuServe all day long and just hang out and look at fun stuff. So my warning is, if you have a 50-pound bag of sand, pay attention to it. Know that the exercise you're doing is meant to bump you off of your balance. Anticipate it and don't rush. And that's what people do. People, move once a year, twice a year, whatever, if they're renting. And they're lifting heavy things and putting things in boxes and bending down and picking up, and they injure themselves. So that's why you try to do that, but working out with a sandbag every once in a while just to make sure you're doing it right. And yesterday I didn't really do it right. Now I'm feeling it. Also in my leg. But that's part of it, We live in tough times. And hey, speaking of tough, happy 4th of July? Question mark, question mark, question mark. What a mess we live in, right? Another day, another shooting in America. So, I almost said for fun, but that's not the right idea. For a dose of reality, I decided to do a quick little internet search right before the show started. How many people have been killed in America with a gun since the last time I saw you? Which was Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What is this, Tuesday? I don't know. Wednesday. 4th of July weekend. From CBS News. More than 220 people shot and killed in U.S. gun violence over the July 4th holiday. And as we all say to each other, sitting at a table in a burning room, this is fine. The people who can really do something about it don't want to do anything about it. And those are people in Congress. I read this great thing the other day from someone on Twitter talking about this idea. And they said, the Republicans are the shooter and the Democrats are the Uvalde Police Department. Now that stings, because it's true on both sides. And that's a problem we have in America with our news reporting. Both sidisms. Fox News doesn't care about that. They promote one side and one side only. But these others, news organizations, we have to have both sides of the story. There are two sides. And another thing I read online, one of my friends said, so this is what it's like with these gun shootings and these killings. You look outside in this scenario, and the Democrats say it's raining. And anybody can look outside and see that it is, in fact, raining, right? And then you have the Republicans who step forward and say, no, it's not raining, sunny skies. which is a lie because it's raining. But the Republicans, just because the Republicans want to say, oh no, it's sunny skies. And then we have these news departments who say, instead of calling out the lie on the Republican side, saying, well, they're lying to you. It's not sunny, it's raining. Instead, these news organizations say, well, the Democrats say it's clear outside, Republicans say it's raining. Looks like we have a controversy. Looks like we have a disagreement about the weather. When it's not true. One side is lying to you. And these news organizations play the both sides. And the bad actors, in my scenario, the Republicans, know it. And they call them on it. Be fair, be fair, be fair. Gordon says, I've just about given up on any TV news, so to speak, and just get an email every morning from Reuters. Nobody can say they are remotely biased. Shwee! That's a good point. I also get updates from Reuters and all different kinds of news organizations all over the world. And some of them are paid and some of them are not. Now, Reuters is good. AP, Associated Press, has always been right down the line. And at one time in the world, we had a thing called Air America, which was a radio network trying to go up against Rush Limbaugh that was filled with liberals. And Rachel Maddow got her start there. Al Franken got his political start there. And very briefly and very fast, the whole thing flopped. Because nobody listened and nobody seemed to care. And we need something like that now. But still, nobody's listening and nobody cares. Because we're killing people. Every day in America. Here's our gun violence archive. Island Park, added to the list. We've already forgotten Uvalde now. Where was that? Sandy Hook, where? Where's Sandy Hook? Columbine? You mean Combine? Like a farm combine? Oh, Columbine High? What? Make sure I can go ahead and get part 2 of my American origami book. And then, even more shocking, this. We need help. New York City. 21 shot. 3 killed. In New York City on the 4th of July alone. We need help. I can't say this enough. We need help. If we arrest them on Monday, they're out on Tuesday. It's endless. Mayor Eric Adams said Tuesday at the gun violence as he criticized bail reform in action again. And he's a police officer. He was a captain. So he should know. He does know. But he doesn't seem to be able to get a handle on it. It's very strange. And speaking of the 4th of July, we all like to have a good time. And now we're in the middle of the summer. So it's weather time. And in every group of friends or family or associations, there's always one person in that group who is the weather person. They have 10 apps. They know the weather forecast down to the minute. And if you just like a person with a knife, anybody have a knife to open this box? I have a knife. Is it going to rain tomorrow? It's going to rain tomorrow from 3 to 4 p.m. with 50% chance of thunderstorms. And I've met them. I can't say that I've actually been one, although I do have a lot of weather apps. I do subscribe every year to AccuWeather, which gives me a minute-by-minute update of the weather, which I've learned over time is really 90% inaccurate. And so I am often asked by certain people, is it going to rain tomorrow? Because they're going out into the world. They want to go lay out in the sun. And so I check and I tell, And then it either is not sunny, or it's raining, or it's sunny when it's supposed to be raining. And the weather person, if it happens to be you, gets blamed. You said it was going to be sunny today, and it's raining. Well, it's the weather. It doesn't matter. So my advice is, if people say, is it going to rain tomorrow? Say, I have no idea. It might. Looks like rain, but who knows? And yesterday was the epitome of it. We were supposed to have rain here at 6 and 7 p.m. And 5, 6, 7 p.m. we had bright sunshine. Humid, you could feel something was happening, but there was no rain. So if a person had to take an umbrella because you told them it was going to rain, and they have to lug that umbrella around all day, and then they get home and they want to throw their umbrella at you, but they don't. And then at 7:30, it starts to downpour. So who's right? Well, it rained, but not at the exact time we thought it was going to rain. It's a vicious circle. And especially here, if Manhattan is an island with 2 rivers on each side. So it can be raining there, sunny there, and snowing across the river. It's very strange. So my advice is, don't be the weather person if you can avoid it. And don't recommend a weather app for the people who are not weather people, because the weather apps are always wrong because the weather's wrong. The weather is constantly changing, and it's a very messy thing. And then there are weather nerds who just don't care, who can explain to you down to the detail why it's raining at 4:05 p.m. and not 6:02 p.m., even though the forecast was 4:04. It was a very quiet 4th of July in our part of town. And there were some fireworks, lovely fireworks, but not loud and not sustained. A lot of people, it seemed, chose to celebrate the 4th of July on the 3rd of July. I don't know why. I guess because Monday was the actual holiday and they had to go back to work on Tuesday. So they wanted the big party and all the fireworks on the 3rd, I guess, so they could sleep in on Monday. I don't know. But it was interesting. And I would think, well, maybe it has to do with gas and the economy and inflation, and people just didn't have the money to spend on fireworks this year. I don't know. It was a little strange, but still nice. Well, Davy. Well. As my Uncle Mills used to say, I have been a big fan and supporter of the Me6 project. Me6 is a bot that regulates, monitors, moderates your Discord server. I use Mr. Wick as my defense, and my Me6 bot is sort of my welcoming device. And 2-3 months ago, who knows anymore, they offered for a purchase of an NFT. They would give you an avatar that nobody cared about, but that everybody cared about. And then this special Web3 functionality, crypto tracking, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. And they've missed every deadline. They do not communicate well. They are based in France. People are wanting to get a refund. And I've been quietly supporting them, understanding that these things take time. However, they missed a big deadline on Friday for the release of their first crypto plugin, whatever that means. I still don't understand what it means. But the fact is they missed it. And they always have an excuse. They were supposed to do an AMA one time. We couldn't find a network cable. We can only update our PR people in a phone conference. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. They don't have email. I mean, why can they only officially update their paid PR people over the phone in a phone conference. Very weird. And now they're doing some Twitter spaces and some other promotions. And they said, well, we'll have the crypto plugin ready for you before the 11th, which is Monday. Trying to tamp down this disappointment in these people. And so I call this, as I said on the Twitter, I've never before experienced a boiling frog rug pull. Now, the boiling frog is you put a frog in a pot of water, and then you slowly turn up the heat. And because the frog becomes acclimated to the changes in heat, it's very subtle over time. The frog does not leap from the water, but dies, boiled to death, unknowing and unrealized. A rug pull in the NFT world is people go out and sell NFTs that are stolen or misappropriated, or they don't deliver on the functionality that they promise. So they sell the NFT and then they take the money and run. And these Me6 people had a big sale. They only sold about half of what they thought they'd sell, which I'm sure was a big disappointment. But they sold at the right time where Ether had not yet tanked. It still hasn't tanked. It's on the way to tanking, and then it will recover. And so they cashed out the day after the sale ended about $2 million. And then they all went on vacation. So they didn't leave their money in Ether. They cashed it out into money, dollars, whatever it is in France. I think it's dollars for what they did. And they disappeared, I believe, for like 2 weeks. And everyone who would purchase this NFT said, wait a minute, why are you going on vacation? After we just gave you, the average price at that time was like $700. And some people bought like 10 of these. Some people bought 20. Why aren't you releasing the avatars? And why aren't you releasing the plugins? And then you find out later, they hadn't even started. These were ideas that they were sharing. And then they came back and they missed deadline after deadline just with the stupid avatars. Then they did them all wrong and had to take them all back, deleted them. We talked about that on the live stream. And then they had to put them all back up. And so I've never before experienced a boiling frog rug pull. But I'm beginning to sense the warmth around me. No one answers here to DMs. No real updates on progress on the Discord server. No private replies from founders in an attempt to blunt the bad PR. And in this Facebook alpha test that I am part of, this is one of the original avatars that they took back that I saved, because I like the ones they took back better than the ones that they fixed. The ones that they don't want out there are the ones I want out there. So I sent them some Q&A stuff so I could promote what they're doing as an NFT, not just an avatar, but as function, embedded, crypto stuff, all that, a month ago. And they never replied. But 1 minute after I posted this, they replied in DMs. And as I understand it, people are telling me that on this account, it's the PR people you're speaking to, not the founders. And they said, oh, we can still do a QA if you want to. I said, no, I'm going to write about it, but I'm going to write more, about beware of NFTs and Web3. And then, I said, are you going to give people their money back? They said, oh, we don't have a refund policy. Now, other people who've done this, delayed by months and months and months, have said, look, we've tried. It's not really working out for us, so we are giving you your money back. We're refunding. But so far, they say they're not doing that. Then after this, I posted this, and they replied to me and in the forum. Then magically, Oh, first plugin's going to be released by Monday. Now, people who've been there don't believe them. The cheerleading moderators there believe them, of course. And the rest of us are just kind of hanging out, waiting to see what's going to happen, because it doesn't really make any sense, and it's very disappointing. And now I admit that I'm a little disappointed too. I've lost patience with this. I've also lost patience a little bit with the alpha testing, but I understand they're having a hard time. I'm not able to post an NFT from my Facebook account. So my whole long interview with Igba is delayed now for almost a week. And they don't seem to be fixing it. They said, let us take over your page if you give us permission so we can go in there and just, test this and figure out what's going on. And I said, okay, take over my page. Go be me. Here's the interview. Copy and paste that. That's the text. This is the NFT it's related to. Go ahead. That was last Wednesday. But we had a long 4th of July, and not that this has anything to do with the social media company. There was a lot of killing to do in America. Not saying that any of us are part of that, but we do have to wait for the world to come back to us after all these deaths. And now it's time for a very brief blood pressure break. Returning in a moment. And we're back from break. This is Boles TV. BOLES.TV.television. Live with you Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Stretching my back during the break, trying to get it unstiff. And I think the error that I made in lifting my 50-pound bag of sand is I didn't lift it this way and this way. I lifted it this way like a kettlebell. That was a mistake. Because then you got to to bring it back, your back's in the wrong position. Now I've learned it the hard way. Well, we were speaking about Facebook and the NFT beta going on, and our good friend Igba, who's being very patient, because we have a very interesting interview with him that's sort of timely, that nothing's happening. And then he told me that he has this new idea for a series, I think, of NFTs that focuses on not just Russia and the war in Ukraine, but on abandonment. And there's a friend that he knows, friend of the family, who is pregnant, and her boyfriend just left her, said goodbye forever. And he says that she just comes over and sits in their living room and sits in the corner looking out the window, sort of massaging her pregnant belly and sort of mumbling the name of this man left her, the father of her baby. And he thinks that would make a very interesting NFT because it's very sad and poignant. And I said, I think that's great. I think it's a wonderful idea, and it sort of, in an interesting way, fits in with what's going on here in America with the loss of Roe versus Wade. And he said, "What do you mean? What's going on in America?" It's refreshing. We have another friend, Alexander, who lives in Ukraine and works on the front line supporting the troops. I had the same conversation with him in our Super Follow chat on Twitter. And both of them have no idea that there is no now federal protection for abortion for women in the USA. They were shocked. They both said, one's Russian, one's Ukrainian. What do you mean a woman can't have an abortion? What do you mean? English is not their first language, so I would send them articles so they could translate, and I would explain it. This is the first time in the history that a right that was granted has been taken back by the Supreme Court, and the religious ferocity with the Catholic Church now controlling the Supreme Court in the United States. And they both really understood it, but they didn't get it. They said, how could this happen? And so we talked about it. You have fascists who want to come in and control women. That's how it happened. So I'm very interested to see what, if anything, the Igba comes up with his pregnant woman anticipating abandonment NFT series is like. And speaking of motherhood, over the weekend we finally got to see Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, with the doppelganger that most people say that this actor, Benedict Cumberbatch, looks like me, which I appreciate. I can see it, I suppose. So, this is my very brief take on the movie, which was, I guess, went live, streaming on Disney over the 4th of July weekend while everyone else was going outside getting shot. We were at home watching the movie. And I thought it was going to be released later, but I guess I think they released it at least a little bit early. Now, this is probably the best Marvel movie that we have seen which probably isn't saying much because most of them are just ridiculous retreads of cartoon characters. But this was an interesting story with the Scarlet Witch. It's really her story, not his. I mean, she's the emotional core that pushes forward all the drama, and he's the guy who tries to clean up after her. And the young woman, America something interesting too. Is that the Scarlet Witch? Is that who that's supposed to be? No, that's his girlfriend. Okay, that's weird. The Scarlet Witch isn't there because it's all about her. So the story was interesting. Sam Raimi is a very interesting director. For a long time, he's been an interesting director, and the script was pretty interesting. And if you don't want to know, I don't think I'm revealing any secrets, but if you don't want to know, don't stop watching. Just pretend you're not hearing me. My very few criticisms are, while I love the Doctor Strange character, I hate how the writers always give him some, and this has been in every movie he's been in, so it's something that they've attached to his character, to say some modern, pithy, stupid thing. It makes you cringe because it's so obvious this is the writer trying to make Doctor Strange lovable and cutesy. And Doctor Strange is not that. He's a strange guy. And we like him best when he's just being strange. And he said, weird things to Peter Parker in one movie. In this movie, he said weird things to the young woman that he's trying to help. Just completely unnecessary. Now, the other thing that I thought could have been a little bit stronger was the moment where everything was coming together with our Scarlet Witch in our world. And when they close caption it, they say the whatever world it was, 836 Strange, the 836 Scarlet Witch, so you know which Scarlet Witch is speaking. But the one in our universe who's causing all this trouble has a wonderful moment where she goes back to try to reclaim her kids in another universe where the other her actually did have children that were not invented by magic. And the two boys, who are her kids, terrible actors. You could tell they really wanted them on and off screen as fast as possible, which is maybe why the scene was so short. But that scene with the two mothers and the two sons was the focus and the center point of the entire movie, and they threw it away. In the final scene where the boys are throwing things at her saying, "Go away, you're not my mother." And she said, "I would never do anything to hurt you," cries, and then leaves. Now, she would not give up that easily. And you have two of them, two Scarlet Witches. One's hiding under the table, which is the one in real time, and the other Scarlet Witch from our time, which is trying to kill everything. And we needed that conversation, the confrontation between the kids and the mothers, where she said, "I am your mother." And they said, "No, you're not. That's our mother hiding under the table." And then we needed to hear, "But we're the same person. I am as your mother as she is your mother. We're just from different times. So you belong to me, and I belong to you." That's the argument the Scarlet Witch had to make with those young kids. And they wouldn't buy it. They'd say, "No, you're not. My mother is over there." And then that gets that mother, the Scarlet Witch in their time, out from under the table, coming over to say, "Right. We are the same person. Those are our children. But right now, today, where we are, I am their mother. You are not their mother in this world. And you can try to kill me, you can try to get rid of me, but that doesn't make you their mother. Motherhood is more than fantasy, magic, wanting belonging. Motherhood is a dedication. And you can have this very nice speech. But they just let it go. There needed to be a confrontation that was stronger between the two boys and the Scarlet Witch, and then a form of resolution where the mother of those boys defended the boys directly with her doppelganger, the Scarlet Witch. They just threw it away. I didn't understand. And I thought, well, maybe this Scarlet Witch doesn't have the powers of the Scarlet Witch from our time. But we saw her flying with the red things in her palms, flying back into the door to go back to save her kids. So she does have the powers of the witch. And I don't want to see a fight between the two of them. I want to see an emotional bonding. Yes. I'll take care of them. They're your kids, they're my kids. You watch out from them where you are, I'll watch out from them here in my time. And speaking of motherhood, oh boy. This was a big shock yesterday. Wendy Davis reflects on the end of Roe a decade after her iconic filibuster. Now, this was very interesting. I couldn't believe this was 10 years ago when Wendy Davis stood on the floor of the Texas Senate, Texas legislature, and she wore a diaper and she talked for hours and hours and hours trying to block all of these abortion restrictions. And she won and she lost. She did a great job. She made history, and then 4 hours later, they voted everything against her. June 2013, Texas State Senator Wendy Davis held a remarkable 11-hour filibuster that delayed one of the most devastating state-level abortion restrictions in recent history. She created something of an iconic moment for abortion rights, which also marked one of the last high-profile points of success, though fleeting, for the movement. So they called her up right after Roe and said, what are you doing? What do you think of this? And this is her reaction to the overturning of Roe. I had 3 moments of real upset leading up to Dobbs, the reversal of Roe. The first was when the Supreme Court was hearing the oral argument on Senate Bill 8. The question was, can we allow individual actors to supplant the state in order to avoid constitutional review? And it was so clear that Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh believed that that was just BS. Because once you do it for one constitutional right, why can't you go do it for another and another and another? And they seemed like they were going to go our way. But then, during the oral arguments for Dobbs, it became very clear, based on the questions that the justices were asking and the things they were saying, that they were going to overturn Roe. They had made up their minds, and Roe was dead. And at that moment, I was standing in my kitchen cleaning up and listening to it in the background, and I just started sobbing. I think it was Amy Coney Barrett. She asked this question like, well, today is different than it was back then. Women can just, take their babies to a fire station, or they can easily give them up for adoption. And I just couldn't believe it. That this was something that the female replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg was saying from the Supreme Court bench. It was sickening. It was a real turning point. When the leaked opinion came out, that was another day of absolute sorrow and anger. Reading the way it was written. I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School. I just couldn't believe the juvenile way in which Justice Alito had maneuvered and swept aside everything that had happened before to get to that place so he so clearly wanted to go. It lacked integrity on every level. What has been jurisprudence in the past, even jurisprudence that I didn't agree with, at least you could say then that there was some integrity to the argument. This was just an abomination. And still, there's this tiny, tiny little part of you that's thinking maybe, after all this outcry that happened, maybe Justice Roberts convinces one of these people, Kavanaugh most likely, to meet him in the middle ground. And then she goes on. It's very riveting. Then when the decision came out, it was just so surreal because as much as I knew it was going to happen, there's still this weird part of me that believed it wouldn't. I just couldn't believe that we had actually landed in a place where Roe v. Wade had been overturned. If you told me that when I was in law school, I just couldn't have fathomed it. And then she goes on and speaks personally. But I also felt it as a grandmother and a mom of 2 daughters. My grandchildren are both girls, so I have 2 girls and 2 grandgirls. And that was where I felt the most keenly in the sadness of what this was going to mean to them. I was so sad for the institution and the reverence that I've always had for it. It just felt like the greatest tragedy to me. And it is clearly the beginning of what's going to be done, one domino after another, impacting this country and the equality of the people here. And that is what's going to happen. And when we return from break, we're going to have an interesting conversation about what that Republican agenda is and what it means. Gordon says, I stepped away for a few minutes. Malka needs. Did you happen to mention the poor 10-year-old Ohio girl who has to go to another state for an abortion? Yes, I may have mentioned that. And she had to go to Indiana. I mentioned that in my conversation with Igba and Alexander. And now the place she went to get help, Indiana, they're locking down as well. It's going to be very strange. And if there's one thing that really, oddly, that might be able to save some Democrat seats in this looming midterm election is the reversal of Roe. That is something that woke people up. And maybe it will energize them and maybe it won't. But if it had not happened, if it had been softer, more subtly done over the long term, as Justice Roberts wanted, the Democrats will be wiped out in the midterms. But now with Roe and this fury, it may not be quite such a slaughter. But the ramifications of a Republican Congress loom, and that we will discuss when I return from break. We are back from break. You're on Boles.tv, BOLES.TV, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Oh, so we're talking about the reversal of Roe v. Wade, all the people shot over the 4th of July holiday, gas prices, inflation. Oh boy. These are tough times to be an American. But what would life be like if Republicans were in power again? And this is what scares me the most. If we had to have a Republican president next, which is not guaranteed, but frighteningly possible. And if our choices are Trump and DeSantis, forget the other people who might be around, which one do you choose? For me, for the safety of America, I would pick Donald Trump. Because we know who he is, we know all of his moves, we know he's a liar, he's tainted, he's in trouble. And the reason he wants to announce so quickly that he's running for 2024 is not just to dissuade DeSantis, is because if and when he gets charged by the Department of Justice promoting an insurrection, he wants to be able to say, oh, it's only because I'm running for president. That's why they're indicting me. Meow. And Merrick Garland does not work quickly. So that is going to happen. If Trump is indicted, he is going to know about it, and he is going to announce the day before it happens that he's running for president. So he can make it all about political revenge. And the reason I prefer Trump over DeSantis is very smart and very clever and much, much intrinsically meaner than Trump. I don't know if he's made life better in Florida as the governor or not, but he has terrorized people and corporations and employees. As Gordon says, who just happens to be living in Florida, he's spiteful for its own sake. That's exactly the way to describe the man. And yet, people seem to like him in Florida. Why? And I heard on the news today, he's already raised $100 million for his re-election campaign. Gordon says he didn't give one thought to rising COVID numbers when he said, open everything. I know, it's shocking. Imagine if you were the president and he said that. Open everything up. It's the flu. So he has $100 million, the most anyone has raised. Running for a governor's office. And he's getting a lot of this money from national donors who used to donate to Donald Trump and who are now donating to him. And people are asking, wait a minute. Why are national donors donating to the governor's campaign of Ron DeSantis? Well, we all know. Because he's not just going to run for governor. He wants to get reelected, and then in 2024, he wants to go. So people are buying in early, and he's got all this money. And he has all this spite and hate in his heart. And for some people, that's the only thing that matters. That's who they want. They want a fighter. You know, so I'm just going to go in there and eat people up, change the world. That's what we heard about Trump. Oh, he's going to mix things up. He's going to go in there and make it all right. And it was a disaster. So here is the Republican agenda. And we should believe it, because this is what they're running on. This is what they believe. For 40 years, they said they were going to overturn Roe. They're going to overtake the Supreme Court. They're going to take over the state houses. And they did. And now some Democrats are saying, who knew? They were that kind of person. Who knew this was their plan? They were very clear about it. Here we go, Mother Jones, 2 hours ago, fresh meat. If Republicans retake Congress in November, here's what their agenda will look like. Oh, boy, this is painful. This is all from a press conference. They want to raise the Social Security eligibility age. The RSC calls for raising the retirement age by 3 months per year through 2040. At that point, the new age requirement to receive full Social Security benefits for people born after 1978 would be 70. After 2040, the group recommends linking the true retirement age to modern life expectancies, noting increasing life expectancy since monthly Social Security payments were first distributed in 1940. So they want you to work longer, retire later. But there are some Republicans who say we don't want Social Security. Bush Jr. tried to get rid of Social Security, said let's just have personal savings accounts. And we'll just make you donate to it, and then when you retire, you just live off of that. We're not taking care of you. And Bob Dole stood up and said, we're not doing that, and made a deal to protect, at that time, Social Security for, they said, the next 70 years. And Bob Dole said, we will never get rid of Social Security because older Americans who happen to be Republican like it and they want it. Well, I guess we'll see. Blocking prescription drug pricing reform. They want an end to birthright citizenship. Hey, Gordon says, I'm grateful that Weill Cornell, where he works, has built-in pension plan for all employees who are there a certain number of years. And I have passed that number. Gordon is fully vested. It's wonderful. It's very smart. And I know people play games with these disability stuff. And Social Security, I know someone who filed to be disabled. And usually when you file for a disability, to get SSD, Social Security disability, you file and you're denied, and you file and you're denied, and then you go get a lawyer who knows people, and you pay the lawyer, and then you get approved. The average from people I know is 3 times. Well, we know someone who applied first time right out of the gate, very ill, very sickly. They got approved. $1,900 a month. Okay, pretty good. But to be disabled on Social Security, you have to sign affidavits and swear that you are not able to work, you are not mobile, you're in complete pain, you're not able to stand, walk, whatever, right? And this person did that and won. And when you get denied and you apply to get denied, a clock starts ticking. And so if you ultimately get approved, you get back pay for all those months where you were denied. So this person who applied and was approved right away, but there was still a moment, between applying and getting approved. They needed more information from the doctor, and that was provided. Got back pay of $9,000. In addition to the now $1,900 a month that this person gets to live on. And this person worked for many years, so they're getting pensions and all that stuff too. But on SSD, $1,900 a month, which is pretty good for a small town in, let's say, the Midwest. And this person has now announced on Facebook that they're going on this 3-week cruise to the European countries. And I'm thinking, as a taxpayer, why are you going on this big vacation on our money that you claim that you are so severely disabled that you have no way to move around or sit in a chair or stand or do anything. And you get to go on a 3-week cruise that we're paying for. Now that sounds very Republican. But there's a difference between take it all and have nothing. And I think that that's a very fuzzy line where someone's taking advantage of the system to get a lot of money and to have a lot of fun on our dime. And that's what makes the really hardcore conservatives so angry that something like that happens. And they blame the Democrats. And I'm saying, look, there are Democrats who are furious about that as well, that it's not fair and it's not right. But how do you fix it? Ending birthright citizenship. This is a very interesting one. Anchor babies is what this is about, where parents from Mexico or some other country come over here, give birth in an American hospital, so the baby is an American citizen, and they use that baby to stay in America because it's an anchor baby. They want to stop that. It is kind of weird. Very scheming, sort of. Eliminating government agencies. The National Labor Relations Board is an independent federal agency that protects workers' rights, and the Republicans want to get rid of it. Okay, I sort of understand their want for that because these agencies are really not Republican. They want to do for goodness for the best of the people. Kneecapping the EPA and rolling back climate change initiatives. Well, that's already sort of happened thanks to the Supreme Court. Aha! They want to restrict abortion nationwide. Now, this is definitely on its way. They want to codify no right to abortion in the same way that Roe was codified. And they're going to pass laws in Congress and meow meow, and it's going to be very vicious and very awful. They endorsed a slate of anti-abortion bills that will restrict and even ban abortions across the nation. Supports prohibiting abortion providers like Planned Parenthood from receiving Title X grants, which help clinics provide reproductive healthcare services such as cancer screenings and birth control prescriptions to low-income and uninsured individuals. And one thing about Planned Parenthood that a lot of people don't realize is if you go there to get help, like for an abortion, they just don't bring you in, sit you down, do their thing, and send you on your way. They also require you to get on a birth control system. They sit you down, they educate you. A lot of these people have no idea why they got pregnant. Really, they don't know. They don't understand the process. And they put them on some sort of birth control, and then they do the procedure. So it's not just like walk in, walk out. It's walk in, you have a conversation, you have a plan to move forward. And a lot of these, mainly women, appreciate the education that they never received and the protection that now they have from getting pregnant in the future. Reversing federal recognition in transgender Americans. This is going to be another nasty one. They want to reaffirm under federal law that sex refers to the biological sex of an individual at birth. That woman refers to a biological female, and that man refers to a biological male. Further, the budget would prohibit the Department of Veteran Affairs from providing or funding gender transition surgeries. It's very interesting. And then they point to the federal prison system. And now the federal government has had to pay for transition surgery and provide medicines and shots and drugs, and they don't think it's right. That you don't go to prison to be given a new sex and a new gender, a whole new life. You go there and you're punished in the body in which you were born. They want to make more gun rights. Hey, 200 killings over a weekend is not enough for the Republicans. They would like to have even more. And that's where this escalation comes from. You think, well, why don't we just have, everybody has a gun. It's a 6-shooter, a Colt from the old Westerns. When the West was won and America was born, let's just have, everybody can have one of those guns. No. Because if I have a 6-shooter, my neighbor over there probably has an AR-15. And if he wants to come over and rob me or hurt me, I'm not going to be able to keep up with him with my 6-shooter. I need to not just match his weaponry. I need to have 2 AR-15s so that when the ammunition runs out in one, I can just pick up the other one and go. That's the mentality. I don't know where this came from. They, of course, also don't want poor people to have anything. So slash all of that, go out, get a job. Stop taking cruises when you're on Social Security disability and bragging about it on Facebook. So there you go. That's the America that's coming for you. Now, this is another very interesting thing. Trying to give some hope. There are people who say this is what the Biden administration should have been doing the moment that the Roe thing was leaked. They should have been sitting down figuring out how are we going to answer this. We just can't say, oh, they're the supreme rulers of the world. What can we do? That the minority people, the Republicans, who do not have a popular majority in the United States, were able to seat all these conservative Catholic justices on the Supreme Court. And they have now no moral or ethical authority. But what do you do about it? Well, here's one thing that someone thinks they can do. How the founders intended to check the Supreme Court. And I'm going to put this article in chat because it's too lengthy for me to read here because it's so interesting. SCOTUS control. Yeah, but we'll still look at it. Sotomayor's primary intent was to argue that rights and prerogatives need not be explicitly delineated in the Constitution for them to exist. The right to privacy, more specifically, the right to terminate a pregnancy, does not appear anywhere in that document, the Constitution, but neither does the Supreme Court's power of judicial review. Both exist by strong implication. Very interesting. So this whole Supreme Court, where we decide every law of the land, is not how the founders, especially Alexander Hamilton, wanted the Supreme Court to behave. They only wanted them very narrowly to decide things that maybe the legislature, the Congress got wrong, but not everything that's going on in American life. So this is the blueprint for how the Supreme Court can be more limited. How did we get there where they decide everything and it goes into the history of it? It's really fantastically written. In Federalist Paper 78, Alexander Hamilton said so explicitly, writing, if it is said that the legislative body is themselves the constitutional judges of their own, it may be answered that this cannot be the natural presumption. Where it is not to be collected from any particular provisions in the Constitution, it is far more rational to suppose that the courts were designed to be an intermediate body between the people and the legislature. in order, among other things, to keep the latter within the limits assigned to their authority. Gordon says, great, now I'm going to have to go have the soundtrack to Hamilton stuck in my head all day. Well, there you go. Blame Mitch McConnell. Other delegates proposed that judges also be given explicit power to veto legislation. They objected, noting the courts will have a sufficient check against encroachments on their own department by their exposition of the laws, which involve a power of deciding their constitutionality. Arguing the opposite point, James Wilson advocated adding additional controls to block bad laws, noting that laws may be unjust, unwise, dangerous, destructive, and yet not be so unconstitutional to justify judges in refusing to give them effect. And it's very interesting, this whole article, this whole concept of how it's a modern thing that sort of started with Nixon, where the Supreme Court became the law of the land. And that is not constitutionally how the Supreme Court was set up to operate. It's very interesting. And the Biden freaking administration should have been doing this for the last 3 months. And the second Roe came out, they should have gone right to this and said, this is what we're doing, this is our plan. But in order to make this happen, I need more Democrats in the Senate and I need more Democrats in the House. And you do this in the midterms and we're going to set it right. Now, the problem with that is, long term, is that Congress is a pendulum and it goes back and forth. Right now it's in the Democrat side, but next time, the next time, it could be completely controlled by Republicans who will then go back and reverse everything that was done. And then what? It goes back to the Supreme Court for a decision, and then you're stuck again. And you really can't pack the court because the Democrats pack it to, 9, 12, 15. Then the Republicans are in power and they pack it, and then you're going to have a court of 100 people. Which maybe is not a terrible idea, but in theory, Congress could very easily pass legislation denying the Supreme Court jurisdiction over a new Voting Rights Act, a law codifying the right to privacy, including abortion rights and other popular measures. If they so choose, Congress and the president could go even further, reducing the court to a shell of its former self, leaving it to adjudicate minor matters of little significance. Of course, with the filibuster in place, this outcome is about as likely as a bill expanding the court's membership, which is to say very unlikely. It's a very interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea. Ultimately, it is the responsibility and prerogative of the executive and legislative branches to encourage greater restraint and humility on the part of the judiciary. Judicial review is well rooted in American political tradition, but so are checks and balances. To save the Supreme Court from itself, Congress might first have to shrink it. And I agree, the court's in trouble. They do not represent the people. And they can make all the decisions they want, but they have lost all of their respect and all of their impartiality in this new role. And their decision on Roe and all these others that are coming down the pike. It's going to be a big mess. It's either a fun time to be alive in America or a bad time to be dead in the USA. I guess it all depends what side of the gun you're on and which side of the court you are on. Now, our final blood pressure break of the day. And we're back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES, .television, .tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, we've had a very interesting day full of sorrows and heartbreak and anger. And hey, let's keep it that way. Hey. Ultra-contagious BA.4 and BA.5 subvariants fuel coronavirus spread across much of California. And it's just so interesting how people think, oh, we're all done with this. Ron DeSantis has said COVID's never been a thing. It's all, I guess, imaginary. And yet, someone we know in a New York State office, another person, confirmed, be careful out there, COVID-19 positive. I think it's the fourth infection in 6 weeks. What are people doing? Where are they going? Are they trying to stay home, get COVID so they can stay home and continue telecommuting from the office? I don't know. Read an article the other day about Boston and how the Boston people are trying to get all their workers to come back into the office. No more telecommuting. And the workers are saying, we don't want to come into the office. And people of a certain age, I guess, want people outside their door that they control and that they can see and they can walk among and they can give a hard time to. And they're saying, you get in this office and you stay here. And the workers are saying, I don't want to go in the office. I want to stay at home. And some people are having a hard time, HR managers, hiring people because people, when they find out I can't work from home, say, I don't want this job. And there was one guy, I guess, very big company, big successful job opportunity, a lot of money at stake, interviewed with the company, loved each other. He loved the company loved him. He said, hey, I'd like to telecommute though. They said, okay, we can telecommute you, but not every day. You can't work from home. Not that, we don't allow. And the person said, okay, well, they said, well, we can do, let's say 3 days. You come into the office twice a week, and the rest of the time you telecommute. And the guy said, okay, deal. So moved to Boston, set it all up. His first week on the job, he quit. And they said, well, what happened? We paid you all this money. You wanted to work here. He said, my commute on those 2 days, there and back, is 90 minutes. I'm not wasting 90 minutes of my life twice a week on a train for this job. I quit. I love that, but I like working from home. But what are you going to do? Here's the rise. California, it's all coming. Here we go. Here's the map, the heat map of the western United States. Orangey is the bad color. There's a lot of orange. A little bit of green, a lot of orange in California. Yay. LA County coronavirus case rate, meow, bingo, upward trend. Now, people who own Ethereum, Bitcoin would like to see this. If only they could infect Bitcoin and Ethereum with coronavirus, the crypto world would be happy once again. And hey, the BA.5 COVID surge is here, right? This one is the BA4 and 5. Well, here we go with the BA5. Now, I missed the third wave. I guess BA1 and 2 were COVID, and then Omicron, and then 3, I don't know what that was, but 4 and 5 are here. The surge is here. The newest wave of COVID infections and reinfections fueled by more transmissible subvariants of Omicron, including BA4 and 5, continue to grow across the United States. The extra worrisome BA.5 is now the most dominant variant in the country, accounting for an estimated 53.6 of new infections last week. As countless Americans gathered over the 4th of July holiday, it's entirely possible there will be more new daily infections. And we just found out one in New York State. 4th person sick with COVID. Hey, New York City quietly closed half of its COVID-19 testing sites as Omicron rebounded this spring. There's the mayor, Mayor Adams. Not enough police, not enough testing sites. And this goes on to say, well, there's more home testing. But people say, look, you need a PCR test fast. You need to go to a hospital. And they're closing them down. The testing sites. New York City Hospital is planning to close 7 additional brick-and-mortar sites on July 17. It's a big mess. It's not really a direction in which we want to find ourselves traveling. But hey, here's some other good news that I've been holding on to for a long time. At least a few days. Cat Stevens, remember him? You were in the 70s and 80s, oh boy, he wrote a lot of great songs. And then he had a religious change and realized he was Muslim and changed his name to Yusuf Salam, I believe. Guess he had a disease, tuberculosis. Why was Cat Stevens deported? Yusuf Islam, the former pop singer known as Cat Stevens, was deported from the United States yesterday after immigration officials said he was on a terrorism list. This is in 2004. What's Cat Stevens doing now? Well. He now records under the name just plain old Yusuf. He's back making music. And he has some wonderful songs. And this is what prompted me. He now has a guitar. This is the infamous, famous Yusuf, not Yusuf Islam, Yusuf Cat Stevens, very awkward guitar that you can buy now from Gibson. This is his famous guitar that he created all those songs on. And there's the cat logo. And this is the beautiful guitar. I think it's very interesting that Gibson's doing this because they're a rather conservative brand. With his long hair and beard, slender frame, and black Gibson J180, Cat Stevens stood as the embodiment of the 1970s singer-songwriter. A modern troubadour on a quest for a spiritual enlightenment through music. And it was on his J180 that he wrote and recorded many of his most beloved songs, including Wild World, which you now see all the time on television as a commercial, Peace Train, Father and Son, and many, many more. Okay. Here's the guitar, full of flame, as they say. It's an acoustic electric, that is. Another beauty shot of the head. Now, isn't that interesting? The crescent and the star. I wonder what that's referring to. Stevens, Yusuf Islam. And this is the lower part of the guitar, which is very interesting, very beautiful. I celebrate this. I think it's really wonderful that he has a guitar that people can own and love, and that maybe he's back. He's not on the terrorism list anymore. He's able to perform. He has wonderful videos on YouTube. Just, you can type in Cat Stevens, Father and Son, YouTube. You'll be delighted. He has a beautiful voice. He's a little bit older, but boy, that guy is talented. Super, super interesting. And now we finish our day on the one sugary high note that we have avoided the entire show. Fresh this morning, a review I tried every smoothie at Erewhon, including Hailey Bieber's $17 skincare smoothie. What? And it is. She has a smoothie that's $17, and you don't put it on your face. You drink it, and I guess it's supposed to make your face better. And this reviewer spent $300 gratuity for this smoothie tasting adventure. Best of the best. The activated smoothie. Hey, oh my goodness, I'm all involved in myself and missing out our friend El Beyonce 2. Hey, El Beyonce 2, nice to see you. I'm doing very well. I hope you are doing very well, and I hope you're staying safe and calm and in good spirits. You'll have to tell us what you're doing and what's new. The activated smoothie tastes mostly of coffee and coconut. It is a good combo, a pleasing grittiness from cacao nubs, and coffee beans is enough to notice, but doesn't overpower. I could get into the idea of drinking one of these every morning, but at $18, I'm not sure I could afford it. You do, I do, I'll be honest, do nothing new. Well, I'm glad you're stopping in and saying hello. Do you have big plans for the day, or is your day winding up or winding down? The coconut cloud. Very interesting. Friendly tonic bartender at the Beverly Boulevard location of Erewhon told me about this off-menu $17 smoothie, and I'm glad he did. I'd also like to formally apologize to him and everyone in line behind me that day for being that guy who held up the line and ordered 11 smoothies. Banana and vanilla notes complement the thick whipped coconut cream, the cloud, as it were. Well, you're more gay than yesterday. I don't know how you're using the word gay, if you're talking sexuality or topping happiness. You'll have to explain a little bit more. Banana and vanilla notes complement the thick whipped coconut cream, the cloud, as it were. A deep, swirling, cobalt blue background. And here's the strawberry glazed skin smoothie. Hailey Bieber. Liked it a lot. The pitaya is good. Sexuality. And what happened that you are more gay now than you were before? If it's a safe question to ask, you don't have to answer it. If it's something that is not G-rated, you can hint at it in a G-rated way and we will figure it out. Bright, fruity, slushy smoothie with a magenta color. Think of it as cold, drinkable manifestation of dragon fruit. Turmeric Crush. Ugh. That's an ugly color. I'm not a big fan of turmeric. Best of the rest. Body Ecology, green, ordinary. You don't know, you feel it. Okay. Feelings are important. Are you doing anything about it, or are you exploring, or are you just taking a day-to-day? Brainstorm. Coconut Dream. I don't know if I'd pay $17 for a smoothie. I mean, I might once, and I would have to share it because I'm not buying two of them. And I would be able to get away with just having one for myself, if you know what I mean. Mint Pistachio Energizer. Sounds interesting. Peanut Butter Blast, very popular. Royal Defense, Strawberry Probiotic. We all love a probiotic. And then, I guess last place. Energy Elixir, the Kefir Margarita, the Maca Bomb, the Mint Chip Energizer. So it all sounds fun and interesting. I'm very delighted to know that you can find a smoothie in Los Angeles that you like and is worth $17. Okay, I will take. I accept. Well, what a show. Including a cliffhanger from our friend Al Beyonce, too, who has tempted us with a vision and a feeling that may get expanded into tomorrow and the next day. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The suspense is killing us. And we talked about the murder of Americans over the 4th of July weekend, and now nobody cares. Now the GOP's ready to go in there and take away more of our rights. And we talked about a lot of disappointing things that have not yet faded, but there is still hope. Wow, what happened to the balloons? Oh, that's an interesting question. The 3 and the 4 ran out of helium. And since they're there for our anniversary, I could not throw them away yet, so I pinned them to our sound absorbers. And then I added beautiful balloon parade. They're just regular balloons, blown up with an air pump. That didn't look right. And so balloon display. And these are the balloons from, I believe, China, that sometimes they go opaque, but so far they have remained clear, and they have leaf imprints on them. I have one in the other room. I would show you up close if I had remembered to bring it in with me. But those back there are not helium balloons. This 3 and the 4, maybe a little bit of helium left, but I have to leave a little bit in it or else it becomes even more ugly than it is now. But at least they're still sort of there. And we're still sort of celebrating a little bit. So if you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to email me, david@boles.tv. On Twitter, you can super follow me. Very, very good. Very, very reasonable. Yesterday, you talked with helium. Well, that sounds fun. I know you enjoy that a lot. And I'm glad you're able to get your own helium. And if you recorded yourself doing your helium, send me a video. And I'll use it tomorrow. On Twitter, @DavidBoles. You can put it on our Discord server. You can email it to me there. On Facebook, where we're working on our NFT alpha testing, we are BOLES. Instagram, it's Boles Books. On Discord, this is our Discord server. You're on our server, but you can, if we're not friends, you can send me a friend request, and you can email me there. Send me a message there, I guess, on Discord if you want to. This is the direct link. You're already a member. You registered a long time ago. On Instagram, we're Boles Books. On TikTok, we're Boles TV. And on Discord, you can see we're right there on the Discord. We have live voice chat. If you're interested in that, I'll have to put on my headphones to hear you, but that's okay. I'll do it. I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. Always looking for new ideas, creative thoughts, things to talk about. We live in a very crazy world, and I like world things, not just USA things. Well, Beyonce says, okay, that's good. I'm taking that as a confirmation. So until tomorrow, I hope you have a wonderful nap, a good sleep, and that you wake up happy and delighted, and your soul is filled with joy and maybe even a little bit of helium. It might just lift your spirits a little bit. So until then, I'll see you tomorrow.